Let's learn how to graft stitches together with a tapestry needle for your top-down socks or any other situation where you have stockinette stitch and the pattern says to graft the stitches together. Grafting with stockinette stitch. Break your tail of yarn. Whenever you break your yarn to do this grafting technique, I like to have the yarn be about 4 times the length of stitches that we're going to graft. So I'm working in the round, so this is what my fabric length looks like. So I want to break my tail of yarn about 4 times the length of that. A little bit more is always good. And to start your grafting, make sure that half of your stitches are on the back needle and half of the stitches are on the front needle, and both needle tips are pointing towards the right. With that broken tail of yarn, insert the tapestry needle purlwise through the front stitch needle and go through the back needle stitch knitwise, like this. That's just to prepare the grafting. Now, go through the front needle stitch knitwise and take it off. And then go through the next front needle stitch purlwise and leave it on. The back needle, we're going to go through the first stitch on the back needle purlwise, take it off. And then the next back needle stitch knitwise, go through it knitwise and leave it on. Okay, so the rhythm that you want to think is for the front needle, we're going to go knitwise off, purlwise, leave it on. So go through the first stitch knitwise off, and then the next stitch on the front needle purlwise, leave it on. And we're going to do the opposite for the back needle. Purlwise off, and the next back needle stitch knitwise, leave it on. Okay, so knitwise off, purlwise, leave it on. Purlwise off, knitwise, leave it on. All right, the front needle, knitwise off, and the next front needle stitch, purlwise, leave it on. The back needle, purlwise off, and knitwise, leave it on. Whenever you pull the yarn through, you can give it a little tug. You don't want it to be too tight or too loose. So whenever you're looking at the stitches, mine is a little bit loose, but if it's loose, you can just pull on the stitches like this to tighten them up. So don't worry if they're a little bit too tight or too loose. You can always pull on them a little bit later, but just give it some practice to try to make sure your tension matches the length of the other stitches. Let's do that a couple more times. The front needle, knitwise off, purlwise on. And the back needle, purlwise off, knitwise, leave it on. So you don't have to pull the yarn through every single time. You can go through the front needle stitches knitwise off, purlwise, leave it on, and then pull the yarn through. That's okay. And the back needle, purlwise off, knitwise on. Keep on repeating that all the way until you run out of stitches at the end of the row, and I'll meet you at the end of your round. When you reach the final stitches, knitwise off, purlwise, leave it on. The back needle, purlwise off, knitwise, leave it on. You've got 1 stitch left on each needle. Just go through the front needle stitch knitwise and the back needle stitch purlwise, like that, to finish it off. And look at that, it's perfectly seamless. Again, if it looks a little bit too loose or too tight, just pull on the stitches and tidy them up to make them match the tension. And the more you practice, then the first time you do this grafting, it'll come out perfect, I promise. There's that beautiful grafted stockinette stitch finish. So this happens most frequently on my top-down socks for the toes, right there. I just love how clean and finished that technique is. All you need is a tapestry needle and you just sew and graft those stitches together. I use it for all my top-down socks, like the glittering snowscape socks. The Pierre socks have that little grafting toe. It's such an invisible method, and if it ever feels too tight or too loose, you can always take your tapestry needle into the stitches and just pull on the neighboring stitches to tighten up or loosen up the situation to make it look perfectly seamless. But here are a few other socks. We've got those cabled trellis socks. Really nice treatment for that stockinette stitch toe, and one of my favorite socks are the striped tiles socks. So you can find all my sock patterns on Ravelry or Westknits.com, and I have a Westknits Year of Socks ebook where you can collect a new sock for every month of the year. So check out all those patterns online and keep on watching for some more fun technique tutorials here on my channel.